I blocked my father's cards. Now he'll have to beg me even to buy bread, exclaimed the son triumphantly, imagining himself omnipotent. But at 7 p.m., when he entered his house, he froze in shock. His wife was sitting on the floor, sobbing. Your father canceled the lease. We have nowhere to live. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The card reader beeped twice. Rejection. I tried again. Same result. The barista's apologetic smile told me this wasn't a machine error. Sir, it's declining again. Do you have another form of payment? I pulled out my secondary card, the one I kept for emergencies. That's impossible. I used this card yesterday. She ran it through. Another beep. Her face flushed pink above her green apron. The terminal says to contact your bank. I'm sorry. I waved her off and stepped aside, letting the woman behind me order her complicated latte. Keep the coffee. I'll sort this out. Outside Peachtree Coffee House, the February morning had turned cold. My post-jog warmth evaporated as I stood before the ATM, inserting card after card. Each screen flashed the same message. Card services temporarily unavailable. Contact your financial institution. Confusion settled in my chest. Not panic, not yet. I'd been a law professor for 33 years before retirement. Problems had logic. Solutions had procedures. This would be a simple mix-up, easily corrected. The SunTrust branch opened at 9. I arrived at 9:30, still wearing my jogging jacket over a damp t-shirt, and approached the first available representative. She was young, efficient, her fingers flying across the keyboard as I explained the situation. I need to understand exactly what third-party initiated means. Her eyes scanned the screen, narrowed slightly. Someone with authorized connection to your account requested the freeze. I'm the only account holder. I authorize nothing. The system shows proper protocols were followed, Mr. Nichols. Her tone shifted, sympathetic but final, the voice of institutional procedure. Then your protocols are flawed. I want this reversed immediately. She clicked through several more screens, her expression tightening with each page. That requires investigation. We'll contact you within 72 hours. 72 hours. 3 days without access to my own money. I photographed the screen before she could minimize it. Red flag notation clearly visible. Freeze initiated by authorized third party. Suspicious activity protocol. She noticed but didn't object. The damage was done anyway. Walking to my car, something Austin said last month surfaced in my memory. He'd stopped by on a Sunday afternoon in January, casual as always, asking about setting up emergency access to my accounts. Just in case something happens to you, Dad, you're not getting any younger. It's just sensible planning. I'd refused politely but firmly. I didn't need a financial guardian at 67. My mind was sharp, my health solid, my affairs in order. Apparently, he'd found another way around my refusal. I drove past his neighborhood on the way home. Maple Ridge Drive, a quiet street lined with oaks. The rental house with the blue shutters that he and Velma had moved into 2 years ago sat peaceful in mid-morning light. I parked across the street for 5 minutes, engine idling, watching the empty driveway, processing what this meant, what he'd done. Why? At home, I made coffee manually, paid for with the $20 bill I kept in my wallet for exactly these small emergencies. The afternoon crawled. I cleaned the kitchen counters twice, sorted mail into precise stacks, avoided thinking directly about what I knew was coming. The phone rang at 7 p.m. exactly. No greeting, just Austin's voice, sharp with something I'd never heard from him before. Triumph mixed with cruelty. Did you try buying anything today? I kept my voice steady, professional. My cards aren't working. His laugh came through the speaker, cold, delighted, savoring this moment. I blocked them, every single one. You did what? Now, if you want to buy even a loaf of bread, you'll have to beg me for it. Maybe you'll finally understand who has the power here, old man. I opened my mouth, then stopped. Years of courtroom training kicked in automatically. Never respond in anger. Gather information first. Assess the opponent's position. I let silence stretch between us, counted 5 seconds. That's all you have to say? No pleading? His voice climbed higher, eager for my desperation, hungry for my collapse. We'll see how long that lasts. Call me when you're ready to be reasonable. The line went dead with a sharp click. I sat motionless at my dining table, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone's monotonous hum. Not despair flooding through me, something colder, clearer. The fog of confusion from this morning burned away completely. My filing cabinet stood against the far wall, oak veneer gleaming in the evening light. I walked to it slowly, pulled the second drawer, and extracted a folder labeled Rental Properties, Horizon Management. Inside, lease agreements, tax documents, correspondence from the property management company. I spread them across the table methodically, found the document I needed, address, 2847 Maple Ridge Drive, tenant names, Austin Nichols and Velma Nichols. Lease term, month to month, renewed automatically since 2023. Landlord name, Orrin Nichols Trust. I pulled the property file from my cabinet and spread the documents across my dining table. Lease agreement, monthly payment history. Landlord, Orrin Nichols Trust. Austin had no idea he'd been living in my house for 2 years. The document stared back at me from my dining table. Lease agreements, property deeds, bank statements. Austin had no idea he'd been living in my house for 2 years. I pulled my legal pad closer and began writing, the familiar weight of the pen grounding me. 3 a.m. arrived before I noticed. My hand cramped from holding the pen, pages covered in notes, timelines, legal citations, scratched in the shorthand I'd developed in law school 40 years ago. Austin's January visit requesting account access. Velma's sudden interest in my retirement portfolio last Thanksgiving. Asking detailed questions about dividend yields. The casual questions about making things easier for me. About simplifying my finances. A pattern emerging like photographs, developing in chemical solution. I'd spent 3 decades teaching students to see patterns in case law, to connect seemingly unrelated facts into coherent narratives. This case was mine now. At 6, I abandoned the pretense of sleep. My home office computer hummed to life, monitor casting blue light across stacks of legal texts. I photographed every document, phone aimed carefully, lighting adjusted to eliminate glare, files saved with systematic precision. Evidence just card block, feb15.jpg. Property lease, austin.pdf. Bank statements, octfeb.xlsx. Muscle memory from hundreds of case preparations over the years. By 9, I'd downloaded 6 months of bank records and accessed the university library database. Retired faculty privileges I'd never expected to use this way. Georgia Code, paragraph the 1684, theft by deception. Paragraph 165100, exploitation of elder persons. I highlighted sections with yellow marker, scribbled margin notes in my precise handwriting, confirmed what I'd suspected through the sleepless night. One-party consent recording. Georgia allowed it without question. Austin's threat was documented, legal, usable in any courtroom in the state. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in 5 years. Logan, it's Orrin Nichols. I hope I'm not calling too early. Professor Nichols! Logan Grant's voice warmed immediately, genuine pleasure evident. Never too early for you. What can I do for you? I'm working on a case study about elder financial exploitation. Could I consult you about legal procedures? Of course. Family law is my specialty now, thanks to your contracts course pushing me in that direction. Still making me proud. Are you available this afternoon? For you, absolutely. 2 o'clock work? At 2 exactly, I sat in my office with notes arranged before me in neat rows, phone on speaker. Logan's enthusiasm hadn't dimmed since his law school days when he'd filled the front row of my lecture hall. Hypothetically, I began, voice casual, if an adult child illegally blocks a parent's bank access, what's the proper response? That's elder financial abuse under Georgia law, criminal offense if proven with sufficient evidence. What about documentation requirements? Recordings if legal in your jurisdiction, bank statements showing unusual activity, witness statements if possible. He paused, curiosity creeping into his tone. Professor, you're really going deep on this case study. I want it realistic, grounded in actual procedure. What about civil remedies? The parent could pursue damages, restitution, but criminal charges send a stronger message about societal boundaries and deterrence. I wrote faster, filling another page. Interesting. What if the parent also owned property the child rented? Silence stretched for 3 seconds. Then, that's separate leverage entirely. Standard landlord rights apply, termination with proper notice according to state statute. How much notice in Georgia? 60 days for month-to-month tenancy. But, Professor, this is quite a detailed hypothetical you're constructing. You know how I am about details, Logan? Precision matters. After we hung up, I stared at my notes. 5 pages in shorthand. The old skill still sharp despite years of disuse. I transferred key points to a fresh sheet, organizing them into 3 columns with ruler straight lines. Evidence, timeline, actions. Phase 1, document everything, file police report, establish clear pattern of financial interference. Phase 2, serve 60-day lease termination through property management, legal, clean, unavoidable. Phase 3, prepare evidence package for potential criminal charges. Let Austin see the machinery of consequences grinding forward. I opened my safe, the small one bolted beneath my desk that Austin didn't know existed, and counted $4,200 bills, emergency fund accumulated over years. I drove to Credit Union of Georgia, walked in with cash and identification, and opened a new checking account in 30 minutes flat. Austin could block what he knew about. He couldn't block what he didn't. That evening I called Horizon Property Management and reached their after-hours line. This is Orrin Nichols. I own the property at 2847 Maple Ridge Drive through my trust. The agent's voice was professional, carefully neutral. Yes, Mr. Nichols, how can I help you? I'd like to terminate the current lease. What's the procedure? Is there a violation of terms? No violations. I'm simply choosing not to renew the tenancy. For month-to-month tenancy, we require 60 days written notice to tenants. I'll come by tomorrow morning to file formal notice. What time do you open? 8 a.m. sharp. Bring property ID and trust documentation. I'll be there at 8. I hung up and reached for my wall calendar. Today was February 27th. I drew a red circle around March 1st with a felt-tip pen, counted forward carefully. May 1st fell on a Thursday. Spring cleaning comes early this year, I thought. I drafted the termination letter on my computer, cross-referenced Georgia landlord-tenant statutes, section by section, ensured every clause aligned with legal requirements, printed 3 copies on official letterhead, signed each one with my full legal signature. At my dining table, I reviewed my notes one final time. Control the evidence, control the outcome. First rule I'd taught for 30 years. You wanted to teach me about power, son. Class is in session. I marked March 1st on my calendar with a red circle. 60 days from there, May 1st. The property management office opened at 8 a.m. I'd be their first appointment. The Sun Trust Tower reflected morning sun as I pulled into the parking garage. My briefcase held everything I needed. Documents, recordings, prepared questions. Marcus Patterson would see me today, appointment or not. The receptionist's smile faded when I approached her desk at exactly 8 o'clock. Do you have an appointment with management? No, but I have documented evidence of fraud involving your institution. I can wait while you locate someone appropriate, or I can proceed directly to federal regulators. Her fingers moved to the phone immediately. Let me get Mr. Patterson for you. 15 minutes later, I sat across from Patterson in a glass-walled conference room overlooking Peachtree Street. He was younger than I'd expected. Early 40s, expensive suit, confidence that hadn't yet been tested by someone like me. Mr. Nichols, can you explain the nature of your complaint? I arranged my documents chronologically across the table. Visual timeline, old prosecutor habit from my trial advocacy seminars. Bank statements here, freeze notification there, written timeline in the center. Someone froze my accounts without authorization. Your representative confirmed it was a third party. Account freezes require proper documentation. Exactly, I'd like to see that documentation. I never provided consent. He pulled up my account on his tablet, scrolled through screens, frowned. I'll need to investigate the request chain. You have 48 hours before I file with the FDIC, the Federal Reserve, and Georgia Department of Banking and Finance. I kept my voice level, professional, the same tone I'd use lecturing to auditoriums. I'm reasonable, but I'm also a retired law professor. I know what constitutes financial fraud. His confidence cracked visibly. Let me review this properly. For context, I interrupted, pulling out my phone. This is a conversation with my son 2 days after the freeze. I pressed play. Austin's voice filled the room, sharp with triumph. I blocked them, every single one. Patterson's face went pale. He set down his tablet carefully. That's quite clear. May I have a copy of this? I'll provide it to your investigators, along with timestamps correlating to your freeze order. I paused. Let that sink in. I photographed your system screen showing the third-party notation. Everything's documented. He stood abruptly. I need to escalate this immediately. Can you give me 48 hours? I'm filing written complaints regardless, but I'll wait 48 hours before contacting regulators. I gathered my documents. Insurance, Mr. Patterson. I'm sure you understand. 48 hours later, Patterson called my cell. Marcus Webb, Junior Account Services Officer, had processed a freeze request from a family member concerned about elder cognitive decline. No medical documentation, no power of attorney, no verification protocol followed. Just a favor for Austin Nichols, his friend from college. Webb was fired that afternoon. My accounts were unfrozen within the hour. Patterson apologized profusely, offered compensation for inconvenience. I declined the money, but accepted copies of the internal investigation report. More evidence for the file. At 2 o'clock, I walked into Atlanta Police Department Zone 2 precinct with a USB drive in my jacket pocket and copies of the bank's findings in my briefcase. Detective Rivera looked tired, skeptical, until I started talking. You're filing for financial exploitation? Elder financial abuse, identity fraud, and conspiracy to commit fraud. My son used a bank employee to freeze my accounts illegally. Do you have documentation? I placed the drive on her desk. Recorded confession, bank investigation findings, witness statements, written timeline of events. It's all labeled by date and category. She plugged it into her computer, clicked through folders. Her eyebrows rose with each new file she opened. This is thorough. Most people come in with just complaints and anger. I taught evidence law for 30 years. Old habits persist. She took my statement, 30 minutes of detailed questions I answered precisely, assigned a case number, explained the investigation process. Weeks, possibly months. Austin would be interviewed, bank records would be subpoenaed. I thanked her, shook her hand, and left with my case number written on a card in my wallet. By 4 o'clock, I sat in Horizon Property Management's Buckhead office. The administrator was efficient, professional. 3 copies of a lease termination notice spread before us. She reviewed my trust documentation, verified my photo ID against their records. What's the reason for termination, Mr. Nichols? I'm exercising my right as property owner. No reason required for month-to-month tenancy under Georgia law. She typed rapidly. Understood. The tenants are, let me check, Austin and Velma Nichols. Correct. Related to you? That's irrelevant to the lease termination. She caught the edge in my voice, nodded quickly. Of course. We'll process this immediately. I signed all 3 copies with my full legal signature. She kept 2, handed me 1 for my records. Notice effective today, March 2nd. Tenants must vacate by May 1st. We'll send certified letter requiring signature within 3 business days. When will tenants receive notification? Certified mail, typically delivered within 5 to 7 business days, sometimes faster. I did the math driving home through afternoon traffic, mid-March at the earliest. Austin would spend the next 2 weeks believing he still had leverage, still had control, still had me cornered. Let him enjoy the illusion while it lasted. At my dining table that evening, I updated my legal pad with 2 check marks, cards restored, eviction filed. The property management letter would arrive at Austin's house in 5 business days. He'd be checking his mail for threatening letters from me, never suspecting the threat was already there. The coffee was still hot when my phone rang. Austin's name on the screen, exactly on schedule. I'd been expecting this call since the bank restored my cards 3 days ago. No greeting, just fury. What did you do? I sipped my coffee, let him wait. Good morning to you too, Austin. Don't play games. Marcus got fired. The blocks are gone. Marcus participated in financial fraud. Actions have consequences. You're destroying people's lives. I'm protecting my own. You should have considered consequences before blocking my accounts. Silence stretched. Then, lower, dangerous. This isn't over. No, I agreed. It's not. He hung up. I saved the call recording, added it to my evidence folder, and returned to my coffee. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed with a text from Austin. "You'll regret this." Then another. "I'll make sure everyone knows you're unfit." Another. "You won't have $1 left when I'm done." I screenshot each message. 23 texts arrived over the next 2 days, each one angrier than the last. That house, that pension, all of it should be mine. I saved them all, organized by timestamp, noting the escalating aggression, a pattern developing, evidence of harassment. On March 14th, my phone rang again. Velma this time. "Dad, it's Velma." She'd never called me that before. I waited. "Austin mentioned you had some confusion with your bank accounts." "No confusion, deliberate fraud, which is now under police investigation." Her voice shifted, became syrupy. "Now, let's not be dramatic. Sometimes at our age, we misunderstand these things." "Stop. I'm 67, not senile. My cognitive function is perfect." "Of course. I just meant we could help organize things, make them simpler for you." "My finances are organized. Your concern isn't needed or welcome. We're just trying to help. Don't contact me again." I hung up, immediately saved the recording. My phone had been automatically capturing everything since Austin's first threat. Georgia's one-party consent law was proving very useful. That afternoon, my brother Robert called. "Orrin, Austin reached out. Said you've been having memory problems?" I closed my eyes, counted to 3. "Robert, I'm in excellent health and full mental capacity. Austin is spreading false information as retaliation for a legal matter between us." "Legal matter?" "He committed financial fraud. There's a police investigation. He's trying to discredit me preemptively." Robert's voice hardened. "He told me you'd accused your bank of fraud when there was none. Made you sound paranoid." "The bank fired an employee for illegally freezing my accounts at Austin's request. I have documentation." I paused. "Did he contact anyone else?" "Your cousin Sarah, maybe Jim from your old department." I spent the next hour writing emails, polite, factual, firm. "I'm in excellent health. Any claims otherwise are false. If you have concerns, call me directly." The next morning, I visited my doctor. Dr. Chen had been treating me for 15 years, knew my medical history inside out. "Orrin, what brings you in?" "I need a cognitive assessment and written statement of mental competency." She frowned. "You're one of the sharpest people I know. What's this about?" "My son is claiming I'm incompetent. I need documentation proving otherwise." Her expression shifted to understanding. "Ah, family dispute over finances?" "Something like that." She ran me through the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, perfect score, memory tests, problem-solving exercises, executive function evaluations. All normal for my age, most well above average. She wrote a detailed letter on official letterhead. "Mr. Orrin Nichols demonstrates full cognitive capacity, excellent memory function, and sound judgment. There are no indicators of dementia, cognitive decline, or impaired decision-making ability." I added it to my evidence file. That evening, I forwarded Austin's defamatory emails to Logan Grant with a note. Adding to evidence file, thoughts on civil defamation case? Logan called within an hour. "Orrin, this is serious. He's claiming you're incompetent to multiple parties. I have medical documentation proving otherwise." "Smart. That's actionable defamation if damages occur." He paused. "Are you building a civil case?" "I'm building leverage. Be careful." He sounds desperate. "Desperate people make mistakes, Logan. I'm counting on it." I checked the certified mail tracking number for the 20th time that day. Delivery attempted March 14th. Nobody home. Attempted again, March 15th. Nobody home. Tomorrow they'd leave a notice and Austin would have to collect it from the post office himself. He'd sign for it, open it, and discover he'd been living in my house for 2 years. I checked the tracking number for the certified letter one more time. Delivery attempted yesterday, again today. Nobody home to sign. Tomorrow they'd leave a notice, and Austin would have to collect it from the post office himself. Logan Grant's office overlooked downtown Atlanta from the 15th floor. I spread my evidence binder across his conference table. 3 rings, 9 tabs, 200 pages. He whistled low when he saw the organization. "Professor, I've reviewed everything. This goes beyond civil matters." "How far beyond?" "Criminal prosecution territory, multiple felonies under Georgia law." He flipped through tabs, stopping at the recordings section. Elder exploitation under Section 16-5-100 carries 1 to 20 years. Computer fraud for the banking manipulation. Criminal intimidation for those texts you documented. What's the likely outcome if charges are filed? With this evidence, conviction probable, prosecutor's dream case, everything documented, timeline clear, victim credible. He tapped the binder. Could be probation, could be prison time, depending on how aggressive the DA wants to be. I watched traffic move silently 15 floors below. I don't want him in prison. I want him to understand consequences. Then you want a plea deal with conditions, restitution, probation, community service. Logan closed the binder carefully. Prosecutors love cooperative victims with organized evidence. You're giving them an easy win. 3 days later, I delivered a copy to Detective Rivera at Zone 2. She paged through it slowly, pausing at each tab section, taking notes on a yellow pad. Mr. Nichols, this binder is more thorough than our detectives usually compile. 30 years teaching evidence law, force of habit that never quite fades. The DA's office will appreciate this. We're building toward formal charges now that Webb's cooperating fully as part of his plea arrangement. Timeline? 60 to 90 days for full investigation. Standard procedure, interviews, record subpoenas, cross-referencing statements. You'll be the first to know when we move forward. I spent the following week creating a visual timeline on my office wall. Color-coded index cards connected with string. Red for Austin's actions, blue for my responses. February 15th, cards blocked. February 17th, Austin's threat call. March 2nd, bank investigation. March 3rd, police report filed. April 15th, eviction notice sent. The pattern was clear, methodical, prosecutable. April 15th arrived. Horizon Property Management processed the formal eviction notice as planned. I imagined it making its way through the postal system, certified, requiring signature, impossible to ignore once received. The document was simple, legal, devastating. To Austin Nichols and Velma Nichols. From property owner, Orrin Nichols Trust. RE. Termination of month-to-month lease agreement. Effective date, May Verns, 2025. I checked the tracking number obsessively. April 16th, delivery attempted, nobody home. April 17th, attempted again, nobody home. April 18th, notice left at residence. Must collect from post office within 15 days, or it would be returned to sender. Then nothing. No pickup, no signature, just available for pickup at North Druid Hills Post Office. 1 day passed, 2, 5, a week. I called Logan on April 23rd. The notice was sent over a week ago. They're not picking it up. They might not realize it's important mail. They'll realize soon enough. May 1st doesn't change regardless. You're giving them barely 2 weeks to move if they wait much longer. They had 60 days from the filing date. Their delay isn't my concern or responsibility. While organizing property files that week, I found Austin's original lease from April 2023. Page 3, Landlord Disclosure section, printed clearly. Landlord, Orrin Nichols Family Trust, managed by Horizon Property Management. Below it, Austin's signature in blue ink, dated April 18th, 2023. I acknowledge receipt and understanding of all terms. He knew. He'd signed knowing I owned the house, then told Velma he'd networked for a great deal through professional connections. 2 years of lies to his own wife. I photographed that page with my phone, uploaded it to my evidence folder, labeled it Lease Acknowledgement Proof. By April 27th, the tracking still showed available for pickup. 11 days sitting at the post office. Every day that passed reduced his preparation time, compressed his options, intensified the pressure he'd face when reality finally arrived. I felt no guilt, only cold satisfaction at the symmetry. Austin had wanted me helpless, dependent, begging. Now he'd learned precisely what helplessness felt like. That evening, I prepared for the inevitable phone call, wrote possible responses on a legal pad, anticipated begging, threats, manipulation attempts, practiced my tone aloud in my office, calm, final, unmoved. Each phrase precise, stripped of emotion. Set my phone to record automatically. Tomorrow was the 28th. Something in my gut told me Austin would finally collect his mail. I checked the tracking number one final time before bed. Still waiting at the post office. 11 days now. Tomorrow was the 28th, and I suspected Austin would finally collect his mail. My phone sat on the table beside my dinner plate, fully charged. I'd been expecting the call all day, ever since the tracking showed item picked up at 6:17 p.m. The book in my hands was just camouflage for waiting. The phone rang at 7:35. Hello, Austin? Dad, please. The eviction notice. You received it. Good. We have 3 days. Only 3 days to move. You had 60. You ignored certified mail for 2 weeks. I didn't know it was important. His voice climbed, panic sharpening each word. Ignorance isn't exemption from consequences. Please just give us 2 more weeks. That's all we need. No. We have nowhere to go. We can't find a place in 3 days. That's unfortunate, but not my concern. You're my father. Doesn't that mean anything? I let silence stretch for 5 seconds. You should have considered that before blocking my ability to buy groceries. I'll fight this eviction. I'll take you to court. Please do. I follow Georgia law precisely. You'll lose and accumulate legal fees. I kept my voice level, almost bored. The 60-day notice was properly served. Your failure to collect it promptly doesn't invalidate the deadline. I'll tell everyone what you're doing, throwing your own son out. After you spread lies about my mental competence, try it. See how that works for you. You're destroying my life. No, I'm ending your free ride in my property. I paused, heard Velma screaming something in the background. Why are you doing this to me? This was the moment I'd been waiting for. You told me I'd need to beg you for bread. Do you remember saying that? Silence, then breathing, ragged and quick. You wanted me helpless, vulnerable, dependent on your mercy. I let each word land separately. Now you understand how it feels. I was angry. And I'm providing education. Use these 3 days wisely. I'm your son. You were my son. Now you're a tenant whose lease has ended. I'll apologize. I'll make this right. Too late. The May 1st deadline stands. There must be something. Pack efficiently. Goodbye, Austin. I hung up before he could respond. Set the phone down gently on the table. My hands were steady. No trembling, no second guessing. Just the quiet certainty that this was precisely what needed to happen. The phone rang again immediately. I let it go to voicemail. Again. 5 calls in 10 minutes, each one unanswered, then a text. Please call me back. Another. We can work this out. Another. I'm begging you. I screenshot each message, saved them to my evidence folder labeled Post-Eviction Notice Reaction. At 8:15, Velma called. I answered. Dad, it's Velma. I asked you not to call me. Please listen. Austin made mistakes, but we need help. You called me senile. Suggested I needed financial guardianship. Those weren't mistakes, Velma. Those were calculated attacks. We were just concerned. You were concerned about accessing my money. There's a difference. I heard her breathing change, preparing another angle. The eviction stands. Don't contact me again. I hung up, blocked both numbers. My dinner had gone cold. I reheated it in the microwave, ate slowly, methodically. The food tasted exactly as it should. No guilt coating my throat, no regret souring my stomach. Just chicken, rice, vegetables, sustenance. At 9 o'clock, I opened my laptop and checked the property management portal. A note from the administrator. Tenant contacted our after-hours line at 7:47 p.m. requesting lease extension. Per your prior instructions, extension denied. Tenant reminded of May 1st deadline and consequences of holdover tenancy. Perfect. I marked April 28th on my wall calendar with a red X. Below it, I wrote, Strike delivered. May 1st was 3 days away. 72 hours for Austin and Velma to pack 2 years of life, find temporary housing, confront the reality that actions have consequences. I thought about Austin's voice on the phone, the progression from demands to begging, the moment he realized I wouldn't bend, the moment he understood he'd misjudged everything. You wanted to teach me about power, son, class concluded. I heard Velma screaming in the background before Austin hung up, something breaking, glass shattering. I set my phone down and marked the date on my calendar, April 28th. 3 days until May 1st, and they'd finally understood what consequences felt like. The U-Haul truck in Austin's driveway looked smaller than he'd hoped. May 1st had arrived, and I watched the sunrise knowing he had until midnight to vacate. I didn't drive by to witness it. No need for that kind of satisfaction. Logan called at 9 with an update from the property management company. The eviction's proceeding smoothly. They confirmed Austin loaded the truck this morning, final walkthrough scheduled for tonight. And the criminal complaint? Filed with the DA yesterday. Elder Abuse Unit assigned it to ADA Jennifer Palmer. She's already reviewing Webb's cooperation agreement. I set down my coffee, felt the weight of what came next. Timeline? 60 days for formal charges, maybe less. This case has everything they need. Documented evidence, cooperating witness, clear victim impact. By noon, I knew Austin had loaded the truck and left. A former neighbor texted, "Saw your son moving out this morning. Looked rough. Everything okay?" I didn't respond. The new apartment Austin found was in East Atlanta, 600 square feet, third floor walk-up, $1,850 a month. I learned this from the property management's final report, not from him. First month, last month, security deposit all due up front. $5,500 total. His savings nearly depleted in one transaction. Over the next week, complete silence from Austin's end. No calls, no texts, no attempts at contact. But Logan kept me informed about the investigation's steady progress. May 8th, Austin consulted an attorney about challenging the eviction. David Morrison reviewed the case for 2 hours, then delivered the verdict. Your father followed Georgia law precisely. Proper notice, correct timeline, legal grounds. No basis for challenge. Morrison also identified the deeper problem Austin faced. The account freezing. That's felony elder financial exploitation under Georgia code. You need a criminal defense attorney, not me. May 9th, Logan personally delivered my formal complaint to the Fulton County DA's office. Complete evidence package, recordings with timestamps, bank investigation findings, Marcus Webb's termination records, threatening text messages, detailed timeline of events. Everything organized in a 3-ring binder, tabbed, indexed like a trial exhibit. Detective Rivera pulled the case immediately. I remember Mr. Nichols. Excellent documentation when he filed the initial report. Let's bring in the bank employee for formal questioning. May 12th, Marcus Webb sat across from Rivera in an interrogation room at Atlanta PD. Already fired from SunTrust, already facing his own criminal charges, Webb had every incentive to cooperate fully. Walk me through how Austin Nichols first approached you about this. Text message. Said his father was making bad financial decisions. Needed intervention. Did you verify these claims through any official channels? No. Austin's been my friend since college. I trusted him without question. So you froze the accounts based solely on Austin's word, without any medical documentation or legal authority? Webb's shoulders slumped. Yes, I know I shouldn't have. I've lost my job over this mistake. I'm cooperating completely. Do you still have those text messages? All of them. I'll forward everything to your email right now. Webb's phone contained 23 messages from Austin over a 2-week period in February. The key piece of evidence. February 10th, Austin wrote, "Can you freeze his accounts temporarily? He's being irrational with money, making poor choices. Just until he agrees to let me help manage things properly." Webb's response, "This is highly irregular, but for you, I'll make it work. Give me until tomorrow." Conspiracy to commit fraud. Written documentation of intent. The DA had everything needed for prosecution. May 20th, a process server climbed 3 flights of stairs to Austin's new apartment and knocked. "Austin Nichols?" "Yes." "You've been served. Have a nice day." The legal document read, "Subpoena to appear. Criminal investigation. Draft Test 285, EA Worth 347. Matter of financial exploitation complaint filed by Orrin Nichols. Required appearance, May 28th, 10 a.m. Listed status, subject, just suspect. I received Logan's update that evening by phone. The investigation was accelerating faster than typical cases. Webb's complete cooperation made everything straightforward. Formal charges likely filed within 3 weeks instead of the usual 2 months. "How's he handling it?" Logan asked carefully. "I don't know. We haven't spoken since April 28th. He'll probably try reaching out soon. Desperation does that." "I know." I marked May 20th on my wall calendar with a red pen. Austin would appear for formal questioning in 8 days. 8 days to prepare for an interrogation he couldn't possibly survive with his lies intact. The process server's footsteps echoed down the apartment stairwell. Austin stood in his doorway, subpoena trembling in his hands, reading the word suspect over and over. I imagine Velma's voice from inside. "What have you done now?" Detective Rivera spread 23 screenshots across his desk, each one a text from Austin requesting the account freeze. 2 weeks after receiving the subpoena, Austin had appeared for questioning, and now the investigation was entering its final phase. I received Logan's update by phone. They have everything they need. June 3rd. Rivera and ADA Jennifer Palmer reviewed the complete case file in her downtown office. 23 messages requesting the account freeze. Palmer tapped the printouts with her pen, plus 3 phone calls we confirmed through phone records, all within a 10-day period in February. Webb's cooperation makes this airtight. Defense has nothing to work with. Rivera leaned back in his chair. Think Austin will take a plea deal? Any smart attorney will advise it strongly. This goes to trial. He's looking at significant prison time. The evidence is overwhelming. The victim, Mr. Nichols, he strike you as vengeful? Palmer shook her head slowly. Opposite. He strikes me as someone who wants justice, not blood. His statement emphasized accountability over punishment. Word spread quietly through Atlanta's legal community that week. A colleague mentioned the case to someone who'd attended one of my evidence law seminars years ago. Orrin Nichols? The evidence professor? Brilliant legal mind. If he documented this case personally, it's absolutely airtight. No special favors were granted. Just proper attention in an overloaded court system. The hearing schedule moved up. July instead of the usual September backlog. June 4th, Austin's employer sent official notification. Dear Mr. Nichols, we've been notified of an ongoing criminal investigation involving your conduct. Effective immediately, you are suspended without pay pending investigation outcome. Company policy requires this action for any employee facing felony charges. But June 2nd, Velma had already left. I learned about her departure from Austin's voicemail 3 days later, though I didn't know the full details until Logan's investigator provided them. Velma had packed systematically while Austin attended a mandatory meeting with his criminal defense attorney. Left a handwritten note on the kitchen counter. I can't do this anymore. You made choices that destroyed us, and I won't be pulled down with you. Don't try to find me. 3-hour drive north on I-75 to Chattanooga. Parents' house. Phone turned off permanently. Marriage over. June 5th, 10 o'clock at night. Austin called my number again. This time he actually left a message, and the tone was different from anything before. Dad, I know you won't answer. I know what I did was wrong. I was jealous, resentful, stupid beyond measure. Velma left me. My job suspended me. I'm facing criminal charges. I've lost everything, and I deserve every bit of it. His voice broke completely. Genuine sobs, not the manipulation I'd heard before. I'm not asking you to fix this. I need to hear your voice. I need you to know I understand now what I did to you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I listened to the recording the next morning while eating breakfast, heard the brokenness, the authentic collapse, felt the complexity wash over me, pity mixed with sadness, but also firm resolve that justice had to continue its course. I waited 2 hours before calling back. Let him sit with uncertainty. He answered on the first ring. Dad, I heard your message. Silence. Just ragged breathing on the other end. I believe you're sorry now. But sorry doesn't undo what you did. You tried to make me helpless, spread lies about my mental competence, threatened me repeatedly. I know, I understand that completely now. The legal system will determine appropriate consequences. That's how civilized society works. Will you testify against me if they ask? If required, yes, but I expect they'll offer you a plea deal instead. And after everything's done, his voice barely audible. Can we ever have anything again? I don't know, Austin. Maybe someday, but not anytime soon. First, you need to accept full responsibility. Not because I'm forcing you, because it's the right thing to do. I will. I swear I will. Then do it through the legal process. That's the proper way to demonstrate you've learned. I hung up gently, not in anger. That same afternoon, Ada Palmer called my number directly. Mr. Nichols, we're preparing plea deal terms for your son. Do you have any input on what you'd like to see? Accountability, formal admission of guilt on the record, restitution for costs I incurred during this ordeal. Preference on prison time? I don't need him incarcerated, Ms. Palmer. I need him to understand that actions have real consequences that can't be escaped. That's very measured of you, Mr. Nichols. I taught law for 30 years. I believe in the system working properly, not in revenge for its own sake. Logan called an hour later with additional details from his contacts. Austin's attorney, Robert Chen, had already signaled strong willingness to negotiate. The evidence was overwhelming and irrefutable. Chen had reviewed everything carefully and told Austin bluntly, "I can't beat this case. I can only negotiate the best possible outcome for you." Plea deal terms would likely include 3 years probation, 200 hours community service, full restitution of my legal costs, and formal admission of guilt in open court. No prison time if Austin cooperated fully and showed genuine remorse. Justice without destruction. Accountability without vengeance. The law working as it should. I updated my personal journal that evening, wrote about the difficulty of maintaining firm boundaries with someone I'd raised, loved, taught, about the necessity of consequences even when delivering them causes pain to both parties. After I hung up, I sat at my desk for a long while. Austin's voicemail had revealed genuine remorse, perhaps arriving too late. The plea deal paperwork would arrive within 2 weeks, and then he'd face the choice: accept responsibility or gamble everything on a trial he'd lose. The plea agreement arrived by email on June 18th, 12 pages of legal language that translated to one simple truth. Austin would admit everything. Logan called that evening to explain the terms, and I listened quietly, feeling neither victory nor defeat. On July 15th, I put on my charcoal suit and waited for Logan to drive me to the courthouse. We arrived at Fulton County Superior Court at 9:15. The building's marble floors and high ceilings reminded me of trials I'd observed during my teaching career, back when I analyzed legal strategy from a comfortable distance. Different experience entirely as the victim. ADA Jennifer Palmer greeted us outside courtroom 5C on the 3rd floor. "Mr. Nichols, we have a strong plea agreement. This should be straightforward." I nodded, but said nothing. Nothing about this felt straightforward. At 9:45, Austin entered the courtroom with his attorney, Robert Chen. He looked thinner than I remembered, older somehow, despite being only 38. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, shoulders hunched forward as if carrying invisible weight. He glanced toward me once, brief, desperate. I looked away, focused on the state seal behind the judge's bench. "All rise." The Honorable Judge Elizabeth Warren presiding. We stood. The judge entered, black robe flowing, expression neutral and professional. She settled into her chair, reviewed the file briefly. "Be seated." Judge Warren asked Palmer to state the charges. Case number 2025 CR 8847, the State of Georgia versus Austin James Nichols. Charges: elder financial exploitation under Georgia Code 165100, conspiracy to commit fraud, and criminal intimidation. The defendant has agreed to enter a guilty plea. The judge addressed Austin directly. "Mr. Nichols, please stand. Do you understand the charges against you?" Austin rose slowly. "Yes, Your Honor." "Has anyone forced or coerced you into this plea agreement?" "No, Your Honor." "Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you waive your right to trial?" "Yes, Your Honor, I understand." "Are you pleading guilty because you are, in fact, guilty of these crimes?" A pause. Then, "Yes, Your Honor, I am guilty." "Tell the court in your own words what you did and why." Austin's voice shook, barely audible at first. "I conspired with a bank employee to illegally freeze my father's financial accounts without authorization. My goal was to control him and force him to give me access to his money. When that failed, I threatened him repeatedly and tried to make people believe he was mentally incompetent." He stopped, swallowed hard. "I knew it was wrong. I did it because I was greedy and thought I deserved his money more than he did." "Who did you harm?" "My father, Orrin Nichols." Austin's voice cracked. "And I harmed myself by betraying the person who raised me and taught me better than this." Judge Warren's expression remained carefully neutral, but I saw her eyes harden slightly. "Mr. Nichols, your actions targeted one of our most vulnerable populations. Georgia takes elder exploitation very seriously. However, you've accepted responsibility, and the victim has indicated through his statement that he doesn't seek maximum punishment. The court accepts your plea and imposes the following sentence: probation for 2 years, 200 hours of community service at organizations serving senior citizens, restitution of $15,000 to Orrin Nichols payable in quarterly installments, and prohibition on independent financial transactions exceeding $500 without court approval during your probation period. Do you understand these terms? Yes, Your Honor. Do you accept them? Yes, Your Honor. Then this court finds you guilty as charged. Probation officer will meet with you immediately following these proceedings. The gavel fell, sharp crack echoing in the quiet courtroom. Marcus Webb's case followed immediately after a brief recess. 18 months probation, $5,000 fine, permanent ban from employment in financial services. He looked utterly broken, didn't make eye contact with anyone, just waste. 2 lives damaged by greed and stupidity, and poor choices compounding. During that brief recess, Austin checked his phone, his face drained of color, reading something on the screen. Later, through Logan's contacts, I learned it was termination notification from TechFlow Solutions. Criminal record incompatible with security clearance requirements. After final proceedings concluded, as people filed slowly toward the exits, Austin stepped toward me in the aisle. "Dad, can we talk for just—" I raised my hand without speaking, didn't trust my voice, turned and walked toward the heavy courtroom doors. Logan followed closely, his hand briefly touching my shoulder in silent support. Behind me, I heard Chen's quiet voice. "Austin, not now. Come on." Outside, July sun beat down mercilessly on the courthouse steps. Heat shimmered off the pavement. "How do you feel?" Logan asked carefully. "Sad. Satisfied that justice was done properly, but sad it came to this point." "You did what you had to do." "I know. Doesn't make it hurt any less." We drove back toward my house in complete silence. I stared out the window at Atlanta passing by, processing what I'd witnessed. Justice achieved, meticulously and completely, through proper legal channels. But I lost my son in the process, perhaps permanently. We drove in silence, the courthouse shrinking in the side mirror. Logan tried to fill the quiet with practical matters, the restitution payment timeline, the sentencing order's legal implications. But I barely heard him. Justice had been served, meticulously and completely. Yet all I felt was the weight of knowing my son would never sit at my kitchen table again. The bank notification arrived on August 10th. Final restitution payment deposited, case financially closed. I stared at the number, $15,000, and felt nothing about the money itself, only closure. The next morning, I called the University Development Office with an idea forming since those courthouse steps. I want to establish a scholarship fund, the Elder Protection Legal Scholarship, $15,000 to start. The director sounded surprised. "That's very generous, Mr. Nichols. What inspired this?" "Personal experience with elder financial exploitation. I helped myself through it. Now I want to help others avoid it entirely. The students who receive this will carry your values forward. That's the idea. Knowledge shared is protection multiplied." The university matched my contribution, creating a $30,000 endowment, generating annual awards for law students studying elder rights. Something positive from something terrible. August 14th, I signed the listing agreement for 2847 Maple Ridge Drive. The realtor suggested pricing strategies to maximize profit. I don't need maximum profit, I just need it sold. Too many painful memories in that house. Austin's deception, my calculated revenge, clean break necessary. Logan had visited weeks earlier with a proposal. The law school wants you to give guest lectures on elder financial protection. Your case, anonymized, would be invaluable teaching material. I'd hesitated. "Turn your pain into protection for others," Logan urged. "That's how you win permanently." I agreed to 3 lectures. Trial run, August 20th, an envelope arrived. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. I stared at it for an hour before opening. "Dad, I've completed 80 hours of community service at a senior center, listening to elderly people's stories about their families. I understand what I took from you. I'm not asking for forgiveness I haven't earned. I just want you to know. I'm different now. I'm learning. If you ever want to meet, I'll be ready. If not, I understand. I love you, even though I showed it terribly." Austin. The next morning, I wrote carefully. Austin, I received your letter. I believe you're sincere. However, I'm not ready to meet, and I may never be ready. What you did damaged something that can't be easily repaired. I don't wish you harm. I hope you build a better life, but I don't want to be part of it. The legal matter is closed. Let the personal matter rest. Oren, I mailed it feeling sad but certain. August 28th, my first lecture in 3 years, University of Georgia Law School, room 204. I'd expected 30 students. 60 showed up, standing room only. The dean introduced me. Professor Nichols taught here for 30 years. He's returned to share expertise in elder law and real-world application, I began. Financial exploitation happens to 1 in 10 elder Americans, often by family members. Today I'll tell you about a case I know intimately. I walked them through the chronology, warning signs, documentation methodology, legal strategy, outcome. Students took frantic notes. One raised her hand. How did the victim stay so calm throughout? He understood that emotion without strategy fails. Strategy without emotion succeeds. Another question. Would reconciliation ever be possible? I paused, genuine emotion showing. Forgiveness and reconciliation are different. One can forgive without allowing someone back into their life. The victim forgave the betrayal's existence, but not its consequences. What's the most important lesson? Documentation, evidence. Never assume family won't hurt you, but always have proof when they do. After the lecture ended, students surrounded me. A young woman approached. Professor, thank you. My grandmother faces a similar situation. This helps me know how to help her. I handed her a detailed resource list I'd prepared. Another student asked, will you teach a full course on this? I smiled, first genuine smile in months. We'll see, but I think I have more to share. That evening, I sat in the campus courtyard, where I used to walk between classes decades ago. Students crossed the quad, carrying books, arguing about cases, living the intellectual life I'd once lived. The scholarship would help future lawyers. The lectures would protect future victims. Pain deliberately transformed into protection. Not a happy ending, but a meaningful one. I sat in the courtyard as evening settled over the quad, watching students debate legal theories beneath the old oak trees. Somewhere across town, Austin was probably finishing his warehouse shift, returning to his small apartment alone. I'd lost my son, but I'd found something else. The ability to transform betrayal into protection, pain into purpose, and one family's tragedy into lessons that might spare countless others. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.